Back here with you, and I want to congratulate you for making it halfway through the Star Within program. You learned quite a lot so far, and in Act 2 you learned about what to focus on and why. Way beyond positive thinking, as I told you it would be. You now know exactly what you need to focus on, what you have 100% control over at all times. And now you know exactly why that's important. Because you know that if you're focusing on things you can't control, anything less than 100%, you are now going to be experiencing some of those negative things I talked about in Act 2. So there's no surprise at this point. When that happens, you know the reason why is perfectly sequential. And when you do focus on the things you do have 100% control over, you are going to experience all the great things we talked about in Act 2 as well. It's automatic. It's the way we're all made. We have a mind, body, emotions, and that's the way they work. So there's no surprises here. You can no longer be shocked when you're feeling poorly. Now you know exactly why. Change your point of focus and everything else will start to change. You also learned a really cool candle exercise, something you can work on at home to help you focus, which is really a great way to keep your eyes focused, your mind focused, and your attention focused. And you also learned this notion of give and take. You know how so many actors I talked about have this take mindset. It's very subtle, and it's not very loud or in your face or anything. It's just a subtle mindset that many actors have, that they want the business to provide something for them. And you don't need to go into any audition or any meeting or any performance with a take attitude. It's always give to the fiber of your being, and everything will be different for you. So, today we're talking about Act 3. And in Act 3 you're going to learn some very interesting things. You're going to learn the 2 reasons that actors are successful. You're also going to learn the difference between intelligence and wisdom. It's really an interesting thing that so many people I talk to, especially in the acting world, are very intelligent. There's a lot of intelligent people out there, and they somehow have convinced themselves that their intelligence is going to get them what they want. But you're going to find out in Act 3 that that's not true. Wisdom trumps intelligence any day of the week. What you have been learning so far in Act 1 and Act 2 are wisdom principles and insights. These laws are all about wisdom. It's not about intelligence, and you're about to find that out in Act 3 coming up here shortly. So, intelligence versus wisdom. You're also going to learn the 7 traits of a peak performance actor. Hugely important. Everybody who's successful is doing something right. There's no big mystery to this. Lots of people think there is a mystery, but there really isn't. There are common traits that all successful people have. And instead of running around looking for new ones or trying to invent new ones, what a waste of time and energy. You already know how important it is not to waste or leak energy. We talked about that in Act 1. So you're going to learn the 7 traits of a peak performance actor. And they're very simple. And you can start demonstrating those traits. You probably already have anyway, as a direct result of what you've been learning in Act 1 and Act 2. Why? Because of that very basic truth I talked about early on. And that truth is that nothing changes until you do. And if you've been doing the assignments and the homework, then I'm assuming that you have started to change, because that's what happens. It's automatic. So you're going to learn the 7 traits of a peak performance actor. You're also going to learn how to do what I call the forward bounce. Now, what does that mean? That means instead of being resilient, lots of people talk about being resilient. But all that really means is you're going back to where you were before the adversity took place. In my mind, why would you do that? Why not come back stronger and more inspired? That's what I'm calling the forward bounce. So you're going to learn how to do that in Act 3. And finally in Act 3, you're going to get another law. This is called the law of interpretation. You're now going to see how the law of interpretation fits into that performance formula you learned in Act 2. It's really one of the baseline core essential principles, one of the core principles of that performance formula. It's a core trigger. When you interpret something, it triggers an emotion, an action, and an outcome. You learn that formula in Act 2. Now you're going to see how interpretation fits into that. Your whole world is really all about your interpretation of it. So, when you go to an audition and you don't get a call back, and you go to six of those in a row, how do you interpret that? Many actors interpret that as, I'm not really very good, or I need to go work on my skills, or they get all very negative about it. Those are nothing more than interpretations. And what you're going to find in Act 3 is that most people interpret very, very badly, and that your interpretations are not cast in stone. That's another thing a lot of actors learn when they go through this Star Within program. Most of us think our current interpretations, the way we see things, are cast in stone. Why? Because we've been seeing them that way forever. Could be years we've been seeing them that way. But you're about to find out, just like you did with the Awaken Asleep in Act 1, you're about to find out that that's not true. That you're far more asleep than you are awake when it comes to interpretations. You interpret things so quickly and so automatically, you never even investigate them. So in Act 3, you're going to get an investigative tool to use with this law, and it's a series of 4 questions, and you'll see what they are in Act 3. And if you ask those 4 questions, which I know you will, you can change an interpretation just like that in a heartbeat. Something you've been interpreting for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, you can now all of a sudden change. Because interpretations, what we found in studies, 80% of the time we are interpreting incorrectly. 80%! That's a lot. Okay, 80% of the time we're walking around the planet seeing not what's reality. That's an eye-opener, I'm telling you. And when you go through this interpretation tool and you learn about the law of interpretation, your eyes will, if they're not already opened, which I think they are, they'll be opened even more as you realize you've been walking around misinterpreting so many things having to do with the business of acting and outside the business of acting. So Act 3, again, is loaded with a bunch of insights and tools for you to use. And you're going to have some assignments to do, just like Act 1 and Act 2. There'll be easy assignments for you to do throughout your day. Piece of cake. You don't have to put aside any extra time to do any of the Act 1, 2, or 3 assignments. One of the beauties of the Star Within program, which is why people change so quickly and why they enjoy going through it so much. So, congratulations again. You've made it over the halfway point. You're into Act 3 now, and you're getting on the home stretch. Act 4 will be coming up pretty shortly. My pleasure to be here with you. Enjoy Act 3. Really listen to it. Really go for it. Really put to practice the exercise or the check-in question that you're asked to do in Act 3. So Dave Breslow, really a pleasure to be here with you once again, and I look forward to speaking with you soon as you enter Act 4. Take care.